This is Beering Ain't Easy. Do you spend all week thinking about what new beer you'll try next? Then yeah, this podcast is for you. Come join us while we try new beers, share our ratings, debate craft beer culture, and in the process, throw a few jabs at ourselves. So crack one if you got one, and turn it up.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Beer and Ain't Easy, episode 20 with Adam and Drew.
Twin.
So today we got a pretty cool episode idea. Why don't you tell them about it, Drew?
I think before we talk about the episode, we need to introduce a guest. We have a special guest on the second time in the podcast that we brought on a guest, and that is friend of the show, Michael. Michael, you want to say hi?
Hey guys, yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm privileged to be the second guest, and I'm excited for my inaugural appearance here on the podcast. So
since Adam kind of like planned this episode out, I'm going to kick it back to him to explain the concept of the episode and why we want to have a third person involved in it.
I have a new obsession with drinking beer. And that
a new obsession, huh?
Very recent.
Well, not like I didn't have an obsession before, but like a new way to drink beer. And that is blind tasting beers.
Hell yes.
So those of you at home listening, if you've never done it, I strongly encourage you to do it. I'll be posting some stories with the details of our setup so you can repeat the experiment at home. But today what we're going to do is we have 4 different beers. We have a Pilsner, an Amber, a Brown Ale, and a Bock. And for each one of those, we have a craft beer and what we're going to call a crap beer in this episode. And so the episode's going to be craft versus crap. So it's going to be a local micro, maybe not necessarily local, but kind of a micro brewery versus one of those nationally distributed breweries.
Yeah, I mean, when you were talking about like the craft or crap, Michael and I were talking about this offline. Michael, you want to give your hot take on like what your thoughts were when you saw the quote unquote crap beers that Adam chose?
Yeah, Adam told me a few of the initial crap beers, and as a native Texan, I kind of had to get a little offended by the fact that Shiner was selected as one of the craps. So, you know, as someone who was born and raised in Texas, we all kind of have this soft spot for Shiner. And even though, you know, it probably can't hold a candle to some of those, you know, Spindle Tap hazies and you know, modern times IPAs and things like that, then, you know, it's still kind of hard to label it as crap.
Yeah, and since I've talked about that beer in previous episodes, I was personally offended when he chose that on the crap list.
That's actually the reason I selected that beer.
It was fighting words.
The whole episode was built around offending Drew by calling Shinerbot crap.
Yeah. And as someone from Iowa, I would expect no less to attack one of the native Texan beers. So,
but I will throw myself out there because the crap Amber is Fat Tire, which was my first like non-Miller Lite type of beer that I fell in love with. And so
if you're listening and one of these quote unquote crap beers is one of your sweethearts, you know, don't get the roid rage. Just realize that we chose the episode name that was catchier than macro versus micro.
Yeah, there are probably Colorado people out there who are equally as offended as the Texans right now.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
If you get offended that easily, you're probably not going to continue listening to our podcast.
That's fair.
So the last time we had a guest on our podcast, it was a blind tasting. And one of the benefits of bringing a third person on is 2 reasons. One, it's a lot of fun to do as a group. It's just tons of fun. And secondly, the odds of someone screwing up and picking a crap beer and getting made fun of goes up 100%.
And we get to distribute the 8 beers between 3 people opposed to the 2 of us.
So 8 beers, like I think we were saying after we did a 6 beer episode, we were like, where does it stop, man? Where does it stop? Are we just like, we have to one up ourselves every time we do an episode?
There really is no line anymore.
We're going to do a 12-team playoff.
I do feel like you guys need a bracket at some point. We need a bracket challenge, but
yeah, Adam brought that up last episode.
That did come up, so it's in the works.
Yeah.
We're going to have a bracket beer off coming to a theater near you soon.
The commercial bracket was, I think, an overwhelming success. So I feel like it's only fair to do that with beer too. So
Yeah. It just opened the floodgate.
Exactly.
So before we introduce the beers, I will say one more thing about our guest today. You know, it's good to have buddies that share beers with, right? So Adam and I split a lot of our 4-packs and usually pick somebody that likes similar beers to you. And so Adam and I usually are in lockstep with what we like, except on one type of beer, and that's the fruited sours. And so bringing Michael on, he's my go-to guy to say, hey, I want to enjoy a fruited sour. Let's split something. He's the go-to guy.
I'll step to the side for this conversation.
Well, these guys know my new obsession is, Urban South. And part of the reason why I like them so much is because they kind of go on complete opposites. So they're really good with the fruited sours. And then, they'll turn around the next day and just knock out this huge double IPA, huge juice bomb IPA. So that's why I've kind of become obsessed with them lately. You can go and get 4-pack of each one, and I'll share, some with Drew on the fruited sours and then the IPAs with Adam. So it works out pretty well.
Yeah, Adam's missing out.
I just don't get the fruited sour craze.
It's okay. You can like both things. You don't have to pick one over the other. So
yeah, it is funny, to like something that tastes like beer and then like something that doesn't taste at all like what you would traditionally attribute to a beer. But I've grown to love both.
I had one of the blackberry slush ones last night, and my kids saw it at the dinner table and said, Daddy, what is that? It looks like
it's a gateway drug is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. They're all wanting to try it and smell it. And I don't think we're quite there yet, guys.
Okay. Round 1. Can I turn this into a playoff?
I kind of want to make every episode a playoff now.
Impromptu bracket time. Yeah.
Okay, so the Pilsners. The Pilsners will be some of the first beers that we drink. So we have the crap beer, which is Miller High Life.
Ooh, the champagne of beers.
The champagne of beers. I don't know if it's light or not. I can't remember.
I don't think so.
It doesn't really matter.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who knows the tagline for Miller High Life. That makes me feel better.
They will be going against Hans Pils by Real Ale Brewing out of Blanco, Texas.
All right. Michael, you want to take us through the next set?
Sure. So the next set is going to be our brown ales. On the crap side, we have the Newcastle Brown Ale from John Smith's Brewery in, I think, Tadcaster, England. And then on the craft side, we have Best Brown American Brown Ale from Bell's Brewery in Comstock, Michigan.
All right. And I've got the ambers. And so, as Adam mentioned, we've got the Fat Tire by New Belgium in Fort Collins, Colorado, against the Austin Amber by Independence Brewing Company in Austin, Texas.
And the final type of beer is a Bock. And for the crap, none other than Shiner Bock.
Boo.
Why don't we let that soak in for a minute?
I think it's been soaking in for the last several days. I think it's soaked enough at this point.
When it comes to the box, if I can't differentiate between the two, I'm just not going to use the word crap. I'm going to be like the lesser of two is this beer.
Okay, so Shiner Bock is going to be going head-to-head with Bock Slider from Martin House Brewing Company out of Fort Worth, Texas.
Nice. I think that's our first Martin House on the podcast.
I'm not sure if I've had any Martin House.
Oh, nice. I feel like we've been talking about future episode idea with Martin House because they do a bunch of food beers that look really disgusting and interesting at the same time.
I want to do a little round robin prediction.
Okay, let's do it.
So we're going to go around and I have 2 questions for each panel member.
Ooh, fancy.
Question number 1. Of the 4 beers, how many do you think you will pick the craft or crap incorrectly? Incorrectly.
Okay.
That is question number 1. Question number 2, of the 3 people doing this experiment, who is going to pick the most crap beers?
Incorrectly, you're saying.
Correctly. Incorrectly.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
I think do we have it?
Were you asking these questions with double negatives on purpose? Just to like twist it around?
I have like flashbacks to college.
Who is not going to pick the most beers incorrectly?
So a train leaves Dallas 80 miles per hour.
Okay, let me bring it back in. So Michael, we'll have you go first. Okay. How many of these categories of beers do you think you're going to get wrong?
Wrong? I'm going to go high. I'm going to say 1. I think I can get most of them. I'm going to say I'm going to miss 1.
Drew?
I was going to go with 1 as well.
I'm not going to miss any. I'm hitting the grand slam.
Oof. Okay.
Well, that kind of counters my prediction that you're going to pick the most crap beers.
All right, Michael, who's going to be the loser?
I think just going off the previous blind taste test where Adam picked the Hopadillo. I had to call back to that at least once. So I was going to go with Adam just for fun.
That was a fluke. All the audience knows that
fake
was
news.
That was fake news. I'm picking Drew.
Touche.
All right. To carry on our long-standing tradition of bringing a guest on.
The Untapped Roast.
All right. Do you want to go first? Or
yeah, I kind of want to kick us off here. So my first question is, it's an easy one for you, Michael, so you don't have to sweat too much. So you joined Untapped way before us. You joined it like one of the OG back in like 2012. And so just have you been using Untapped regularly from that point in time?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, I jumped on it just as a way to kind of keep track of everything that I was drinking because we were having, we had so much fun back then with craft beer, even in the early days. And this was the only way I could keep up with what I had and what I hadn't. Memory doesn't always work that well.
But the follow-up question really was, are we incredibly lame for starting a podcast centered around Untapped 8 years after the app has been created? Honest question.
No, absolutely not. I think it's a good way to rate everything. I think the thing that's the most unfair is that after all these podcasts and you guys name drop in Untapped for 20 episodes now, that they have not reciprocated in any way whatsoever.
Like a Beering Ain't Easy badge?
Yeah.
It's coming.
So what's your question, Adam?
There are 2 beers that I'm going to state, and I'd like you to say which of these 2 beers you would prefer. Parish Brewing, Ghost in the Machine.
Yeah.
Or Karbach, Cherry, Rodeo Clown. If I offered you those 2 beers, would you have any preference of which one you'd want?
So the first thing I did when I listened to y'all's episode with Ryan, when I heard you guys do this the first time, is immediately speed home, pull up my own Untapped ratings, and start seeing what on earth are these guys going to try to hit me with. And I knew 100% that Adam was going to come at me for these Karbach ratings. I knew it was coming. So
there's a lot of Karbach in the top.
Okay,
there.
I figured so.
No Karbach.
So if you look, did you guys happen to notice what year those Karbach ratings were made?
I think they were like 2013.
Yeah. Do you happen to know when Karbach was sold to InBev?
Ooh, that's a good question. Trivia. I'm going to guess 2016?
2016.
No,
2016.
I only know because I looked it up so that I could have this conversation. So,
man, this guy came prepared.
We're cutting out his whole rebuttal, so it doesn't matter.
It's fine. You can cut it all out. I think you were asking about Rodeo Clown. I can't really stand up.
Cherry.
Okay, Cherry Rodeo Clown. I can't stand up quite as much to that one. Obviously, today I would pick Parish. But, back in the day, pre-Karbach selling to InBev, some of those original Hellfighter Bourbon Barrel, like those are some of the ones in my top ratings. And I'll still stand by those today.
So your final answer
is going to be Parish. And I realize that I probably rated the Cherry Rodeo Clown way higher than that one. Or at least the same.
They were both 4.5 ratings on Untapped.
Okay. Back in 2013, 2012, a lot of my ratings were probably inflated. So
fair enough. So my question was a lead-up question. It was kind of a softball for some math. You've been on Untapped since 2012. You have 668 unique beers which translates to 7 new beers a month. I've been on Untappd for 46 months, which is like 3 years and 10 months. And I have more beers than you at 674, which puts me at 14 new beers a month. But how do you feel to know that Adam has been on it for 1 year and 10 months, and his rate is 21 new beers a month?
I'm just making up for lost time.
There are pretty hilarious statistics. Drew and I were talking about this earlier, but back when I started with Untappd, really the only place that you seem to be able to find a lot of really, good selection of craft beers was at places like Flying Saucer. I feel like I had to work a lot harder back in 2012, 2013 for mine. You guys just kind of, walk by the grocery store while you're buying, bread and milk, and you can grab all these great craft beers. So that's my excuse. I am a little impressed that you're already ahead of me. I didn't realize that, though.
Yeah, I noticed that today in my limited research.
I did kind of panic lately when I got to like 666. And I got to go have another one just to get it to 667.
All right. It's been fun roasting Michael, but I'm ready for a friggin' beer. So let's get this blind taste testing going.
Let's bring on those beers.
All right, so now the experiment is complete, and it was very eye-opening.
It was fun as usual. It was awesome.
Was a fucking blast. I love this, and it just makes me want to do it more and more.
Every episode.
But I have a new bold prediction.
Oh.
We were all pretty confident going into it. After conducting the experiment, I'm going to go out there and say that at least collectively, between all of us, at least 50% of our beers are going to be wrong.
Speak for yourself.
Are you still... So, Michael, you still as confident as you were going into it?
Absolutely not. I'm 100% less confident than I was when we started this thing.
And Drew?
I don't think I missed one of them.
Oh, man.
Bring in the heat. Okay, so let's go through the Pilsner. So the two Pilsners going head to fucking head were Miller High Life versus Hans Pilsners. So one of them was beer number 1, one was beer number 2. Michael, which beer do you think was the craft beer?
I had number 2.
Number 2, Drew.
I had number 1 as the craft beer.
Oh.
I had number 2 as the craft beer. Drum roll, please. Number 1.
You guys were both high-lifing it.
It is a fucking gut punch.
Oh my god, dude! You know what's makes so much sense is like after we did our tasting, we had a tall boy of Miller High Life, and guess who went and grabbed the remainder of that High Life, poured it in his glass, and like this shit wasn't so bad. That was Adam.
I grabbed that motherfucker. And I'm drinking it right now, and I'm still thinking it is pretty good.
I gotta admit, like I don't think I've ever had a High Life before, but there's a reason it's called the champagne of beers. Like the only reason I knew it was the High Life is it kind of had that metallic, shitty beer kind of taste to it a little bit, but it was a lot better than your average shitty beer.
When I had that first drink of the first beer, I can't remember which one it was. I remember like being like, "God damn, that's definitely the craft beer." Then I took my first drink of the second beer, and I was like, oh shit. I got a 50-50 shot right now.
In my defense, I don't feel like I drink a lot of Pilsners, so that was my excuse. But
there are no excuses in this game. Okay, moving on to Ambers.
So the head-to-head Ambers, we had Fat Tire versus Austin Amber from Independence Brewing Company. Which one of those was craft? Was it number 3 or number 4, Adam?
This is the one I have the most confidence in, and I'm going number 4 was the craft.
I had number 3 as the craft.
I also had number 3 as the craft.
Uh-oh.
Drum roll, please. Number 3.
Yes.
Craft. Damn it.
2 for 2.
You said you had the most confidence in this one, you said?
This is awesome. I love doing blind tasting.
Okay, that is a good transition point to the brown ales.
All right, so brown ales, we had craft was the Bell's Brewery Best Brown American Brown Ale. And the crap we had is Newcastle Brown Ale. And I'd just like to state I have zero confidence in this one.
I drank a lot of Newcastles back in the day. We used to call them Newcassies.
Okay, let's put Drew on the spot. Drew, what do you got?
So the Browns, we had number 5 and 6. So the craft beer I have is number 6.
I also have number 6.
Same here. I have craft as number 6, crap as number 5.
Drum roll, please. We are all wrong.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Newcastle is number 6. Bell's Best Brown is number 5.
Wow.
I'm really surprised on that because I've had a lot of Newcastles and I thought I had it down. There was no edge on the better beer on this one. I felt like they tasted the same, and I was like, there was nothing that blew me away about either beer.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on. Bocks. We got Shiner Bock versus Box Slider by Martin House Brewing Company. Michael, you are on the hot seat. Beer number 7, beer number 8. Which is your craft?
So I have craft Martin House at 8, and I had the Shiner, which I refuse to call crap, at 7.
Okay. And Drew.
Craft is 8.
And myself. Craft is 8. Drum roll, please. And we are all right.
Yes. Yeah. Man, I was sweating. Like if we picked Shiner wrong, like we were going to have to ban ourselves from Texas, I think.
Yeah, I was going to have to turn in my Texas card if that was wrong. So
Okay, so let's just do a little recap. Michael, how many of the 4 beers did you get right?
I predicted 75% and I got 50%.
So you got half of them wrong.
That's correct.
And Drew?
I got 1 wrong, which I predicted.
I'm a fucking cheater. Let me do my math here.
Everybody pause.
I'm an engineer, but this is much more complicated math than I do at work.
Pause your podcast for a second while Adam calculates.
I got 3 out of the 4 wrong.
Which I think Michael and I predicted that you would be the low man on the group.
I'm just trying to keep the audience. I'm just trying to keep the audience coming back for more.
Coming back from more bad beer predictions.
More bad beer predictions.
Well, and what that tells us, I think, is that if we all want a really good Pilsner, we should just shell out the money for some Miller High Life.
So I have 2 takeaways. A, I predicted that collectively we would get half of the beers wrong, and I was correct.
Just spot on, right on.
So I was spot on. Number 2, if you're drinking these types of beers, don't spend the money on expensive craft beers.
I don't know if I agree with you there.
If you had to rate your top 2 beers and your bottom 2 beers out of this whole experiment, what do you got? I'll put you on the hot seat, Drew.
My favorite, hands down, out of all of them was that Martin House Bock. That beer was delicious. I actually rated the Martin House as a 4.0. I really enjoyed that Bock. The Austin Amber was my second favorite beer out of those.
So I'm not going to follow the rules I laid out.
Let's do it.
As usual. The one thing that really stood out to me is on the Pilsners, there was no difference for me. I rated them both the same. They were both 3.25.
Did you get a sponsorship from Miller that I don't know about?
Miller High Life, if you are listening, I am accepting sponsorship offers.
Adam is the face of Miller.
I'll help design the Champagne of Beers t-shirt for Adam to wear to work every day.
You know, actually, of the other 6 beers, I rated 4 of them 3.75 and 2 of them 3.5. I thought they were all like damn near the same.
Yeah.
What's your hot take, Michael?
I'm going to have to go with the 2 that I actually got correct. So the Martin House Bock I was actually pretty impressed with. I feel like I can identify the Shiner, but I thought the Martin House had an edge and being a little bit more complex. I think Fat Tire is a great gateway craft beer to an extent, so I kind of have to go with that one.
This is a perfect experiment because any listener at home can do this same thing.
It's been a ton of fun. And before we close out tonight, I just want to put a shout out first for our friend of the show, Michael, for being on the show. So thanks for being on, Michael.
Absolutely.
And I want to say you got to listen to next week because we have our Christmas episode in store. And we're going to talk about some pretty awesome vertical tastings of Christmas beers. And we're going to talk about some stuff with our kids. It's been a little while since we've talked about some kids stuff.
The dads out there, you are not going to want to miss this one. So we'll see you all next time.
Peace out. This has been a Beering Ain't Easy production in Houston, Texas. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you want to see what we're drinking, our untapped handles are Beering Ain't Easy Adam and Beering Ain't Easy Drew.